Hi everybody, I'm very sorry for the confusion before. I'm here to welcome Michèle Sanniti, who has been working for the British Council Valencia for about 20 years. Michèle is very interested in environmental education and has been encouraging her students to take action for a long time. So I'm going to hand you, and she's going to share some interesting techniques that you can use to involve your students in classes. So I'm going to hand over to Michèle just now.
Hello, good afternoon. Hello. Welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to the talk. Sorry about the technical problems. I'm very happy to be here today, and I hope that you're going to enjoy the presentation and hopefully go away from this session with some new ideas and some ideas you might be excited to use in your own classroom. Also, just for your information, some of the games and the material that you're going to see throughout the presentation will be made available to you later. Fiona can maybe explain more about that at the end. And I'll also be making available some actual handouts that I've used with my own class, which is always nice as teachers. We're busy and you don't always want to reinvent the wheel if someone else has done it. Okay, so those will be made available. Let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to invite participants to do is to participate in an eco quiz. As we know, the topic of today's presentation is why and how to exploit green issues in the classroom. This is what we're going to be looking at, and the first thing I'm going to do is show you a quiz that I would do typically with adolescents in the classroom. Okay, eco quiz. First question. Since the 1980s, what has changed about Spanish summertime? Have a little think. I'd like you, if possible, to write an answer into the question and answer, the chat function. I'm going to give you a clue as well. Think temperature, think duration. What's changed about the summers we have now and the summers from the 1980s? Anybody know? If Fiona could just tell me what might appear in the chat function.
Let's see. Okay, people are suggesting that it's longer and that there have been changes in temperature.
Fabulous, thank you.
It's hotter.
Exactly, it is hotter. And the piece of news that I focused on for the answer here was, due to climate change, summertime in Spain lasts an extra 5 weeks a year compared to the 80s. And that was taken from El País, and it was also in the news. So very good, we're on track. Next question. Okay, according to the UN, how many species are at risk of extinction due to human activity? Is it 1 in 100, 1 in 50, or 1 in 10? For this, make your decisions, but I don't need feedback at the moment. Make your decision and I will show you the answer. Up to 1 million species are on the brink of extinction due to human activity. That comes from the UN. And it's quite an amazing statistic. I think it always surprises people. And there's actually a name for it, the 6th mass extinction. Okay, the next one, this one, I'm going to ask for some answers in the chat. There were 1,180 fatalities due to traffic accidents in Spain in 2018, very sadly. How many people died as a consequence of air pollution? What do we think? We think about this, the same number, maybe a bit more, or even maybe we might think a bit less. Could you just write a number into the chat function, and Fiona can tell me what participants are answering, replying.
I don't think anyone's venturing an answer yet. I'm guessing a lot.
A lot, exactly. Usually maybe when we're in class I might go, what do you think? Do you think double? Do you think more than double? What not? Well, it's actually very surprising. Every year in Spain there are around 10,000 premature deaths linked to air pollution. That comes from El Instituto Nacional, and so it's just almost like a blind spot, I think, especially people that we live in cities. And if I was in class, then this would provoke a little bit of conversation. I know personally, as a person who lives in a city, I'm kind of blind to cars. I just accept it. I don't even really think about air pollution in cities because it's so normal, it's so part of life, but it actually is a big problem. Okay, now the next one. Regarding the climate crisis, according to the UN, how long do we have before we pass the point of no return? Now, I'm not going to ask for answers for that, but you may have seen the related news to this. This is taken from an article from the BBC after the publication of the very famous IPCC report from 2018. It was reported as this: we used to think if we could keep warming below 2 degrees this century, then the changes we would experience would be manageable. Not anymore. This new study from, it's a massive group of scientists who inform the United Nations IPCC, it says that going past 1.5 Celsius is dicing with the planet's livability, and the 1.5 temperature guardrail or safety barrier could be exceeded in just 12 years in 2030, which is now 10 years because this news came from 2-3 years ago. Okay. Now the idea of this is it's all kind of this quiz which you would only use with adolescents. It's kind of boom, 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 kind of quite shocking scientific news, but we're always going to try to end on a positive note, an optimistic note. The last question to the quiz is, on the 15th of March 2019, how many cities worldwide held climate crisis protest marches? Cities worldwide, 180, 800 or 1,800? Your students are there, they're guessing, they're thinking whatever. And it was actually 1,800 cities. Now the point here, and I would use this often as a trampoline onto another activity, is to tell our students that things are changing. People are, so there's a lot of bad news, but it would seem that people are very much waking up to this. They're hearing what scientists are saying and they're reacting, and society in general as a whole are beginning to actually demand change. Why are we not reacting to this kind of news? Okay, so I'd use this as a trampoline. Now, what I'd like to do next is just focus on the teachers who are in the session now. Before we teach about green issues, we might say, why should we do it? Or maybe sometimes we might feel not so comfortable. Why might we not want to do it? So what I'm going to look at here is, why might we do this? I'd say because it's a massive hot topic. It's something all educators should be aware of. It's massive. Why wouldn't we talk about this? It also shows our students and parents we're teaching more than just English. We care about their development as people and preparing them for the future, quite frankly, in the case of adolescents. And then it's also motivating for students to use material from the media, which is current and fresh. I think, you know, this is even true for the primaries, that, you know, if you're talking about something that they know, they've heard about it on the television or their parents talking about it, there's a connection. And definitely with adolescents, they know what's going on. What I would like to ask now, green issues in the classroom, what might be the drawbacks? I'd like to ask you maybe just to write into the chat, why might we not want to teach about this, or maybe not get around to it? What might put us off teaching about green issues in the classroom? And it could also be to do with time constraints, not necessarily just the topic, actually, maybe time constraints as well.
Do teachers maybe think that students will find it boring? Or that it comes up in all the textbooks, so they've seen it too many times?
Fabulous, just the answers I wanted, thank you. Exactly, could be a bit boring, and maybe because up until now, when we talk about climate change, it's been very scientific and very prescriptive. It's what is global warming, and it's CO2 levels, and those scientific diagrams we get of the sun's rays coming in and not being able to get out well. Yeah, and maybe it's all right, but maybe some people find it boring. Brilliant. But there's quite a new angle we can teach from now. So perfect. Let's have a look. And also, you're so right, it features in a lot of textbooks, but I think there's a new angle now. So let's have a look. Teachers' lack of knowledge on the subject can sometimes be an issue, that people were awful busy, we're busy teachers, plus it might not be your interest area, that's normal. So you may not feel too comfortable, oh, what material should I use? I can help you with that today. Time and difficulty involved in adapting material for different learners. I'm going to show you a full range of activities for all different levels today. You feel it's been covered in most course books. Well, I think the focus now, which we can use with our students, which is really exciting, which is like activism, Fridays for Future, the the youth climate action movement, is a new angle, and it's very exciting. And also, sometimes we also might say fear of worrying students, because if we look purely at the science, it's actually extremely pessimistic and quite worrying, well, very worrying. But it's important that we should always then offer alternatives, talk about the solutions, talk about the alternatives, which are very exciting. And also with the little ones, it's always going to be kept light. With primary, it's going to be light, it's going to be fun, it's what they can do. But with adolescents, you'd be surprised how much they're actually interested in talking about this. I've had some fabulous conversations spontaneously with adolescents about the topic, and they're very resilient, and I think they're very curious about this topic. Okay, let's get going. So, what can we focus on with our students? I'm going to sort of condense this down to 3 A's. Awareness of the climate crisis, tell them what's happening. Activism and climate protest is the new angle that is very interesting. And always talk about alternatives for a greener future and hope, because we want our children to have hope, even if the future does look actually very dark. Now, and there is Greta Thunberg down there. Okay, let's get started with how we can actually then, what would we be doing in the classroom? The first area I'm going to focus on is use of video. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you first of all a video that I've chosen that I think is very useful. We can do a lot of things out of this video. We'll watch this, and then I will show you some activities we could do after this video. If Fiona could just give me a thumbs up that the audio is good when the video starts.
Today's lesson, civil disobedience.
Great.
Here in Manchester and up and down the country, thousands of students from reception to year 13 skipped school to call for action on climate change.
Because they want to save the polar bears.
They were waving banners in Glasgow.
Today we make a change!
And whipping up the crowd in Sheffield. Leading teachers' unions criticised the walkout, saying only under exceptional circumstances should pupils be out of school. And as these young people see it, the circumstances are exceptional.
One voice is strong, but thousands is stronger. And we need all the people we can to help us to get the message to the government.
At Windmill Primary in Oxford, they turned a day of protest into a day of learning.
I don't want children who are apathetic and think, actually, it's nothing to do with me, I don't like it very much. I want children who care passionately and are prepared to take a stand and do something about it.
A spokesperson for the Prime Minister said the disruption would increase teachers' workloads and waste valuable lesson time. But just around the corner, student activists said they weren't going to take a lesson from the Prime Minister, especially in time wasting.
Theresa May, worry about Brexit. We're going to exercise our democratic right to show that we're angry and that we care about what happens to our future.
Not everyone behaved themselves. In Westminster, there were 2 arrests. And this was a day off school on the warmest day of the year so far. There's a lot of suggestion that you're just here for a day off, not for climate change. What do you say to that?
I would say that's unfair. I think that this is more important than school, and not because of education, but because there's no point in having an education if what we're going to end up with is like a world where everything's underwater.
When these students are in their 40s, the planet could be nearly 2 degrees warmer, a climate that no generation in the history of mankind has experienced. What will teachers say about us in the classrooms of the future? Tom Clark, News at 10.
Okay. Fabulous video that we can use in the classroom, and what's really nice about it, you see primary kids and secondary kids. So what would I do with this? The video that we've just seen. It's taken from that ITV News. Okay, I would first of all start off and ask the students what they already knew. We'd have a conversation if they know anything about the climate strikes. By the way, this information, obviously it comes from it's 2019, but I still think this video is very relevant because it explains what the movement was about. I would then pre-teach any necessary language for them to watch the video. This is before we watch the video. Then there would be the general activities, listening for gist, listening for specific information. I have worksheets already made for this that you can use. And then students finally, once they've really understood the video, they can react, give their own opinions about the topic and about the video. From there, it's very nice. You can go on to role play activities. You can maybe group students in 3s. One is a student who thinks they would like to strike. Another is a student who thinks it's a bad idea or they're not sure. And another is a student that doesn't really know. And you can have your students having a little discussion. This obviously for teenagers would work very nicely. Give them all a role and they have to role play. What you can do in the classroom or out of the classroom is then writing at the end of all of this. I've done this with students before and I was so surprised by what they came back with. I said, right, homework, write a letter to Greta Thunberg. This was with lower secondary, and it was, I wasn't quite sure if they would even do it, and what they produced, the writing was really lovely. They had taken it all very on board and they wrote these lovely letters asking our questions and saying how they felt, and it was a really productive activity that they actually engaged with very well. With slightly older teens, you might ask them to write interview questions, and then they can get together in maybe a following class and role play an interview with Greta Thunberg. They pull together all of the questions they've written, and then they go into 2s. One person is the interviewer, the other person is Greta Thunberg, and they do an interview. It's fabulous for speaking practice and vocabulary. The teacher can be doing delayed feedback of the language. There's quite a lot of language within this video that I focus on in the handout, so you can play a vocabulary game at the end of all the activities. And for homework, you may suggest that students watch a related video, look up vocabulary, write a summary and then come back and discuss it with another student in a following lesson. That always works very well. And in my handout, I've got a list of videos on this same area that I think are really good. So you don't need to go away and look for more of those. I have options. Okay. So that is what that particular video I like a lot, but a lot of what is written on the screen here could be applied to many of the other suggested videos or videos that you like. Now this would be mainly for kind of secondary students. Let's go right down to the other end of the scale and have a look at the very young children. Very young children. Here, all I'm going to give you is a recommendation. With sort of preschool age children and lower primary, I've done this. It's storytelling with this book called Greta and the Giants. It works really nicely. It's on this topic, and I would highly recommend a storytelling session with this. Works very nicely. Then, what we could also do is we can do crafts and chants, and this works very well with primary. I'd say what I'm about to show you, I've done it with children from 8 and up, but I think it could be modified for slightly younger children. But what you would need to do is take out some of the content and just be aware that you're pre-teaching the vocab well before. So roughly from 8 and upwards, or modified for lower. What I would say is the idea here is for students to make mini placards, to have a mini protest in the classroom. So I would start off by saying with the children, what do they know? So I'd probably write climate change on the board, not climate crisis, climate change, because that's more understandable for them. And then what do we know about this? Get some vocabulary up on the board, and you'll find the kids start to go polar bears, the weather, and you start to put vocabulary up on the board. You can scaffold and guide a little bit, get some vocabulary up. It is incredibly surprising how much young children know about climate change. But we're getting the English up on the board. Now, what I would suggest doing, the video that we've just seen, I would show the first chunk of it that focuses on seeing primary age children out with their little placards, chanting, speaking to the camera, so that the children understand what we're talking about here. So they understand, why are we making a placard? Yeah, it may not be obvious. It's obvious to an adult, but not to a child. Usually about then, maybe a little bit, there'll be questions, there'll be a little bit of conversation going on. And then we're going to go into a game for slogans that they'll put onto the placards and making the placards, and then finally chanting. Now, let's move on. Oh, I do apologise, by the way. If you have any questions whatsoever as we go through, put a question into the chat function, and at the end of the session, the producers will ask those questions. Sorry, I forgot to say that at the beginning. If you have a question, put it in the chat function, we'll come back to it. Okay, so the slogans game. Children are great when they're making placards. They're great for having ideas about the drawings, but obviously we need to help them with the language. They don't know what language would go on a placard. So I've turned it into a game, and this goes down a bundle. They love this. So I get a load of slogans that you would see at a protest about the climate, and I gap fill them. The way this works is, first of all, on the board, I'll write down the words that are missing from what you can see on the screen. Yes, the words that are going to go into the gap fill. I put them on the board. I make sure that the students understand those words. Then what I do, the children will go into groups, and they're going to work in groups. Now, at the moment, pre-COVID, I did this on strips of paper and they were all sharing. Now with COVID, what I would suggest you do, they're in groups, but each child has their own piece of A4 with this gap fill that you can see on the screen, the slogans. But they work as a team, but they fill in their own handout. You give the handouts out, it's a race, they all turn over their paper at the same time and go. Let's see which team can fill out the slogans the quickest. Who will be the winner? They get very into this, and it's surprising how quick they are. You have a winner, round of applause. You can maybe wait to see who comes second. Then you go through the answers and you fill it in. And now our students have a list of slogans to choose from. They choose the slogan that they want on their placard. And then we can move on to actually making our placard. Now, a heads up for teachers. When you do this, make sure that the students, they're going to make their placard on a piece of white cardboard, so it's more rigid than a piece of paper. And at the back, they're going to put just a little wooden stick that you can buy from any local Chinese shop and stick it onto the back of the piece of A4. When the children start to actually make and draw on the card, tell them to do it very lightly with a pencil. Because what can happen is they're very excited and they're taking their time to do this lovely to write the slogan, and they're taking their time and doing beautiful letters, and then it doesn't fit onto the bit of paper, and it's very frustrating for them. So tell them to make a scribbly light version first in pencil. And when it all fits, the slogan fits and there's room for a picture, then they can get their coloured pencils or their felt tips out and start to make it look nice. Okay, just a heads up, we don't want anyone crying in the classroom. Okay, so then they've made these beautiful placards, and it's a very enjoyable activity. And I mean, if we've got these placards, what are we going to do? We should really have a protest, should we not? So the next thing is we should do some chanting, which is excellent for their language and pronunciation too. So here, I just bring it up onto, you know, if I've got a whiteboard, I bring it up with a PowerPoint, but this is fabulous. And there hasn't been a class I've done this in that they haven't loved it and got very excited about it. I'll just give you a little example of how this works. It's call and response. So first of all, the teacher will drill it all and just have the students copying you. But in the end, what it should be is, what do we want? Climate action. When do we want it? Now. You drill it and they'll do call and response. Or you do 2, 4, 6, 8, save the earth, it's not too late. And you get them doing it and they get so into it. And by the end of the class, you will probably be able to stand back completely and have one half of the class calling out the first side and the second half of the class calling out the second. Just so you hear the rhythm of it, number 5 is hey, 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 ho. No, hey, hey, ho, ho. Climate change has got to go. That might not make sense unless you've heard it. The kids love it, and they get very into it. Highly recommendable. Okay, and you can have your in-class protest. Some schools that I've done this with, because I've done this actually for my daughter's school, it was their year of the environment, and they actually went out into the neighbourhood, got all dressed up as various things to do with the environment, and went along and had a little protest in the street. You can make it as big or as small as you want. Now, from there, that was enjoyable things that I think we can do with primary. And now looking, would be more for secondary students. The climate crisis, when we talk with adolescents, yeah, it's all a bit pessimistic for the future. And I think it's always really important to talk about hope and solutions. Okay, so these are my suggestions. Now, I found this video and I think there's a lot we can do with this. It's 22 amazing inventions that will save our planet. I don't know if I'm quite as positive as that personally, but I think it's a lovely angle for kids and actually very necessary. We need to think of solutions. All I'm going to do here is just let you see a very small part of this video before I comment on what I would do with it myself. Okay. Oh, we've done so well. This is maybe where it's going to go wrong. I'll give it a second. While the video is thinking, oh no, hang on a second. or before my PowerPoint crashes. What I will say, it's ideas, inventions. So what you can do with the children is, this is more for adolescents, but low secondary upwards, get them into groups, ask them to watch different sections of the video. It can be at home or in the classroom, depending what kind of facilities you've got. And they watch an invention in each group, or even 2 inventions. They write down vocabulary, and then they get back into groups that have seen different inventions and share the inventions. It's lovely speaking practice. Then they can rank them, say what their favourites are. There's a lot that we can do with this. Hang on a second. I'm not quite sure what the best option is here. If the PowerPoint is going to close. Yes, it did. The PowerPoint closed. If you give me 1 second, I will reopen that. Just a second. Okay. We'll just reshare. Hopefully it will be all right. Here we go again. Actually, looking at the time, what I might do is we can see the idea for that video. I'm going to skip past it because there's one more video that I would rather that you saw. Okay, so we get the idea there, and it's lovely to look at solutions, and there's a lot of work you could do in the classroom with this. Another option is for older groups. I'd say a very strong B2 and upwards, and maturer students. This is a very nice video from the BBC talking about, can we actually transform in the next 12 years? It's nice because sometimes when I've actually had discussions with, it was actually a group of 17-year-olds last year. They were very intelligent, and you could see sort of the dawning on their faces. They were going, but how can we do all of this in 10 years? How can it be done? And I did this video with them, which is, it gives you some hope that it looks back at history when we actually have experienced very rapid change, or actually put it into effect as a society when we needed to. This is a very interesting video, but definitely for higher levels. Now the next one, I'm hoping I can actually show you this. I've said it's a song, but it's more of a rap really. Highly recommend this for about B2 students. I have a worksheet for it. It is a very beautiful, clever rap about the environment. I'm going to let you see it. I cross my fingers that this works. It's an excellent video.
Planet Earth is 4.5 billion years old. Mankind, about 140,000 years old. Let me put that in perspective. If you condense the Earth's lifespan into 24 hours, that's 1 full day, then we have been here on this planet for, drum roll please, 3 seconds. 3 seconds. And look what we've done. We have modestly named ourselves Homo sapiens, meaning wise man. But is man really so wise? Smart, yes, and it's good to be smart, but not too smart for your own good. Yes, we have split the atom. Yes, we build clever machines that navigate the universe in search of new homes, but at the same time, those atoms we split created nuclear warfare. In our quest to explore the galaxy, rejects and neglects the home that we have here now, so no, that cannot be wisdom. Wisdom is different. While intelligence speaks, wisdom listens, and we willingly covered our ears to Mother Nature's screams and closed our eyes to all of her help-wanted signs. Wisdom knows that every action has an equal and opposite reaction, so if we were wise, we would not be shocked when we see storms that are stronger than ever before, or more drought, hurricanes, and wildfire than ever before, because there's more pollution than ever before, more carbon, more trees cut down than ever before. At a record pace, we have increased the extinction of animals by 1,000 times the normal rate. What a feat. In the next 10 to 100 years, every beloved animal character in every children's book is predicted to go extinct. Lions gone, rhinos gone, tiger, gorilla, elephant, polar bear gone in 3 seconds. Species that have been here longer than us will be gone because of us in this 3 seconds. In an existence shorter than a Vine video, we turn the circle of life into our own personal conveyor belt. Somebody, anybody help. We were given so much, the only planet in this solar system with life. I mean, we are 1 in a million. No, actually, scientifically, we are 1 in a billion, trillion. That's a 1 followed by 33 zeros. And I don't want to get too spiritual, but how are we not a miracle? We are perfectly positioned to the sun so we don't burn, but not too distant so we don't turn to ice. Goldilocks said it best. We are just right. This paradise where we are given medicine from trees, not coincidentally, but because like the song says, we are family. Literally, everything, every species is connected genetically from the sunflower to the sunfish. And this is what we must recognize before it's too late, because the real crisis is not global warming, environmental destruction, or animal agriculture. It is us. These problems are symptoms of us, byproducts of us. Our inner reflection, loss of connection has created this misdirection. We have forgotten that everything contributes to the perfection of Mother Nature. Corporations keep us unaware and disconnected, but they have underestimated our strength. Contrary to popular belief, millions are waking up out of their sleep, seeing our home being taken right up under our feet. We cannot allow our history to be written by the wicked, greedy, and loony. It is our duty to protect Mother Nature from those who refuse to see her beauty. Call me crazy, but I believe we should have the right to eat food that's safe, with ingredients we can pronounce, drink water that is clean, marvel at trees, breathe air free of toxins. These are natural rights, not things that can be bargained for in Congress. See, they want you to feel powerless, but it has been said that something as small as the flutter of a butterfly's wing can cause a typhoon halfway around the world. But when enough people come together, we too will make waves and watch the world into a new era filled with love and connection, freedom for all without oppression. But it is up to you, yes, you watching this behind this screen, to make the effort, because time is of the essence, and only together can we make it to the 4th second.
Beautiful video. So much information in there, and I have a handout for it. You don't have to worry, you don't have to go through it. I've looked at all the vocab and it's tried and tested. This goes down very well with teenagers. It's almost time for me to stop. If Fiona allows me, I'll just show you one more thing. On the handout that you can access after the talk, I've got a very simple eco quiz that you can do with primary students. It's nice to bring some objects into it as well. Show students, actually bring some, if you've got a bamboo toothbrush, bring it into the classroom, plastic bags, material bags, that kind of thing. And with lower levels, higher levels, you can actually talk with them. But what can be rather nice with primary, I've done this with like 8-year-olds, give them an options game, yeah, that the kids have to point to or run to the option that is more eco-friendly. What's the best option? Is it the ice cream cone, or is it the tub with the plastic spoon in it? They point to it, they run over to it, they say the vocab, fabulous. The plastic bag, the material bag. Is it the plastic cutlery, the reusable cutlery? And they're learning all this vocabulary, and you can play lots of vocabulary games with small children with this. Make your lolly, buy your lolly. The reusable bottles, all the old classics, but this can be quite fun to sort of gamify 2 options. What is it? They're learning their vocab, they're running about, and this works really rather nicely. Because of time, I'm probably just going to stop here. I'm going to whiz through. I had a ridiculous amount of slides. I'm just going to whiz through. Oops, I went too far. I whizzed right through. thank you for listening. And do we have any questions?
There aren't any questions in the chat at the moment, but someone posted a comment earlier about what was the word? Negationist parents, that there might be some resistance to teaching kids about the environment because their parents might not believe in climate change. Have you ever encountered anything like that?
Do you know, I haven't, thankfully, and I must admit I'm relentless. Every year I'm doing this stuff, but I've never had that. I mean, there must be some out there, but there have to be some out there, and there's a bit of everything in society. But you know, the scientific community now is in complete agreement that there's no denying this. We're in actually, and it's not a question of does it exist, does it not exist. We're in massive trouble. If that exists, fine, but also, you know, we treat it as teachers, you treat it with sensitivity in the classroom, but we're not telling them any lies. And there's no subjectivity to this, it's science. So, but a very good point, but it's a fear you might have, but I've never even come up against that.
Okay, that's good to know. And just some comments to say thank you very much. Someone else was worried about negationist parents, but as you say, it's science, it's fact, so people have to accept it. People are saying thank you very much for all your useful ideas, and I would echo that. Just to say that Michèle's, I'll change the camera to me. Michèle's PowerPoints and not a PowerPoint, but worksheets and links to the videos are going to be posted on the Padlet. Amelia, who's helping in the background, could you post a link to the Padlet, please?
I'm trying, but a little bit unsuccessfully. So okay. Give me a second.
The link is also on the main British Council conference page. It's the same place where you'll find information from all the publishers, etc. And that's where we're going to put the speaker materials. So Michèle's will be there. I'm going to post them just after the talk, and you'll be able to access them. Thanks very much to everyone for coming. Thank you to Michèle for sharing all those wonderful ideas. And we hope to see you at another talk at 4 o'clock. There's 4 to choose from. If you haven't signed up yet, then there's still time. We'll also be sending you some feedback documents so you can tell us what you think of the conference. But we hope you've all enjoyed it, and we'll say goodbye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.